I stood outside the house with my suitcase beside my leg and said, "This is it." No one answered. I checked the address again. Same street, same number, different house. A man watering plants looked at me and said, "You lost?" "I'm looking for Richard and Helen," I said. "They moved 2 years ago," he replied. My throat went dry. "Where?" "Apartment near Lakeview." "Nice place." I thanked him and walked away, my phone shaking in my hand. I called my mother. She answered after 4 rings. "Hello." "It's me," I said. There was silence. Then she said, "Oh, that's it?" I asked. "I didn't know you were coming," she replied. "I told you last month." "You say many things," she said. When I reached their apartment, my father opened the door halfway. He said, "You look thinner." "That's your welcome?" I asked. He stepped aside. "Come in." My mother stood near the window. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You traveled far," she said. "I came home," I replied. She nodded. "Sit if you like." I sat on the edge of the couch. My father stayed standing. "So," he said, "how long are you staying?" "I just arrived," I said. "Yes, but how long?" "I don't know." He looked relieved. My mother said, "Do you want tea? Do you want me here?" I asked. She paused. "That's a strange question." "Is it?" My father cleared his throat. "You could have called more." "I sent money every month," I said. "That's not the same," he replied. It was all I could do. He nodded, but didn't agree. My mother said softly, "People change." "I didn't think parents did," I replied. She looked away. I glanced around the apartment. No photos of me. I asked, "Where are my pictures?" My father said, "We downsized." "So I didn't fit." He frowned. "Don't start." I laughed without humor. "I crossed cities for this." My mother said, "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" My father finally sat down and said, "You left." "I left to work." "You stayed away." "I stayed alive," I said. Silence fell between us. My mother whispered, "We thought you wouldn't come back." "That was your excuse?" "It wasn't easy," she said. "Neither was leaving," I replied. My father rubbed his face. "We build a routine." "Without me." "Yes," he admitted. I stood up. "I should go." "You just came," my mother said. "And I already feel like a guest," I replied. She reached out, but stopped herself. "You can visit tomorrow." "Visit," I repeated. My father said nothing. At the door, I asked, "Do you miss me?" My mother hesitated. My father looked at the floor. That was my answer. Outside, the hallway felt colder than the street. I dragged my suitcase behind me. I whispered, 7 years. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother read, "Text when you reach." I typed, "Already arrived." Then I deleted it. I walked into the night, realizing the door I feared wasn't the house. It was them. I sat at the small dining table and said, "You didn't have to cook so much." My mother smiled. "We usually eat like this." My father added, "Someone appreciates effort." I picked up my spoon and asked, "Who?" My mother said, "Evan." I paused. "Who's Evan?" They exchanged a quick look. My father said, "A good boy." My mother added, "Very respectful." I forced a smile. "I see." My father said, "He helped us a lot." "How?" I asked. "He checked on us," my mother replied. "Drove us places." I nodded slowly. "Because I wasn't here." My father said, "We're not blaming you." "That's worse," I replied. My mother laughed softly. "The neighbors love him." "Of course they do," I said. "They say he's like a son to us," she continued. My hand tightened around the spoon. "Like," my father said, "people talk. They call him the better son," my mother said proudly. The word better stayed in my head. I asked, "Better than who?" Silence answered me. My father cleared his throat. "He's coming tonight." "Why?" "So you can meet," my mother said. I leaned back. "Was that planned?" "Yes," my father said. "Did you tell him about me?" "We told him you exist," my mother replied. The doorbell rang. My father stood. "That's him." Evan walked in with a smile that stopped halfway when he saw me. He said, "Oh." I stood. "Hi." My mother said, "Evan, this is our son." He nodded. "Nice to meet you." His eyes measured me. I said, "You live nearby?" 5 minutes away, he replied. "That's convenient," I said. We sat. My father said, "Evan just got promoted." "That's great," I said. Evan said, "Thank you." My mother asked him, "Did you eat?" He smiled. "Not yet." "Then eat," she said warmly. I watched them talk about daily things I knew nothing about. I asked, "How long have you known my parents?" Evan answered, "For years." I laughed once. "Long enough." He stiffened. "I didn't replace anyone. I didn't accuse you," I said. My father said sharply, "Enough." I nodded. "I'm just listening." Evan looked at me and said, "I respect what you did." "What did I do?" "You left," he said. My chest burned. "I worked." "For yourself," he replied. "For them," I said. My mother interrupted. "Let's not argue." Evan smiled again. "I should go." At the door, he said quietly, "They needed someone." I replied, "So you volunteered." He met my eyes. "Someone had to." After he left, the room felt smaller. I asked, "When did I stop being enough?" My father said, "Life moved." "Without me," I replied. My mother said, "You weren't here." "I was alive," I said. She whispered, "That's not the same." I stood. "It should have been." My father said, "Don't make this harder." "I didn't," I replied. "You did." I walked out before dinner ended. In the hallway, I whispered, "Better son." No one followed me. I stood in the kitchen and said, "Do you remember the night I left?" My mother replied, "You chose to go." "That's not what I asked," I said. My father leaned against the counter. "You wanted more." "I wanted survival," I replied. My mother crossed her arms. "You never told us you were unhappy." "I told you I was tired," I said. "You always complained," she replied. I laughed once. "I worked for Mark." My father frowned. "Your uncle helped you." "He used me," I said. My mother said, "He gave you a job." "He took my time," I replied. "That's work," my father said. I said, "He promised growth." "You should be grateful," my mother replied. I shook my head. "I work 12 hours a day." "So do many people," my father said. "I slept on the floor," I replied. My mother said, "You never mentioned that." "I mentioned money," I said. My father asked, "You were paid?" "Late," I replied. I remembered Mark's voice saying, "Family sacrifices." I said, "He called it loyalty." My mother sighed. "You stayed too long." "Because I sent money," I said. My father looked surprised. "You sent what you could." "I sent everything," I replied. My mother whispered, "We didn't ask for that." "You didn't stop me either," I said. My father said, "You're blaming us now?" "I'm explaining," I replied. I looked at them and said, "I skipped meals." My mother said, "Why?" "So you wouldn't," I replied. My father said, "We were fine." "You said bills were heavy," I replied. My mother said, quietly, "Everyone struggles." "I disappeared," I said. My father rubbed his neck. "You made that choice." "I thought it mattered," I replied. I remembered calling home, hearing short answers. I said, "You stopped asking how I was." My mother said, "You sounded busy." "I was breaking," I replied. My father said, "You could have come back." "To what?" I asked. Silence answered me. I said, "Mark laughed when I got sick." My mother said, "That's not our problem." "He's your brother," I replied. My father said, "You're an adult." "I was your son," I replied. My chest felt tight. I stayed because I believed. My mother said, "Believed in what?" "In you," I replied. My father said, "We didn't force you." "You benefited," I replied. My mother said, "That's unfair." "So was silence," I replied. I took a breath. "I lost years." My father said, "Everyone loses time." "I lost myself," I replied. My mother looked away. "You sound bitter." "I sound honest," I said. My father said, "What do you want now?" "To be seen," I replied. My mother said, "We never hid you." "You forgot me," I replied. I remember Mark saying, "Family comes last sometimes." I said, "I learned that from all of you." My father stiffened. "That's enough." "No," I replied. "This is late." My mother said, "You survived." "Barely," I replied. I stood up and said, "I didn't fail." My father said, "No one said you did." "You acted like it," I replied. My mother whispered, "We did our best." "So did I," I replied. I walked toward the door. My father said, "Where are you going?" "Forward," I replied. Inside me, something cracked and settled. I wasn't weak. I was exhausted. I unlocked the door to the rental and said, "This is fine." The room answered with silence. I dropped my bag and sat on the mattress. I said to myself, "At least it's mine." My phone buzzed. My mother texted, "Did you settle in?" I typed yes. Nothing else. The next morning, I walked into a cafe near the building. A woman behind the counter asked, "Coffee?" I said strong. She smiled. "Rough day, rough life?" I replied. She handed me the cup and said, "I'm Sarah. I'm just passing through," I said. She replied, "Everyone is." I came back the next day. She asked, "Same order?" "Yes," I said. She added, "Same face." I laughed. "That bad? That tired?" she said. I sat at the counter. She asked, "You don't talk much." "I talk enough at home," I replied. She paused. "That explains it." I told her, "My parents don't need me anymore." She said, "Or they don't know how." "That's generous," I replied. She said, "People aren't always cruel. They're careful," I said. "About what?" "Effort," I replied. My phone rang. It was my father. I answered yes. He said, "Your mother needs help." "With what?" "Groceries," he replied. I looked at Sarah. She said quietly, "You don't have to." I said into the phone, "Call Evan." My father replied, "He's busy." "So am I," I said. I hung up. My hand shook. Sarah said, "That hurt." "Yes," I replied. "But you didn't break," she said. The next call came 2 days later. My mother said, "Your father's tired." I replied, "So am I." She said, "You're still our son." "Only when needed," I replied. I ended the call. I stared at the wall and said, "They trained me." Sarah said, "To disappear?" To respond, I replied. She leaned closer. "You don't owe silence your body." "I owe myself rest," I said. That night, Evan messaged me. "Are you avoiding us?" I replied, "I'm choosing distance." "They're worried," he wrote. "They'll survive," I replied. He sent another message. "You think you're better now?" I typed, "I think I'm quieter." At the cafe, Sarah said, "That boy feels replaced." "He replaced me," I replied. She shook her head. "No, he filled a space." "That space was mine," I said. She said, "You left it." "I trusted them to save it," I replied. My phone buzzed again. My father texted, "Can you send money?" I stared at it. Sarah said, "What do you want to say?" "I want to say no," I replied. "Then say it," she said. I typed, "I can't." The typing bubble appeared, then vanished. I said, "That felt cruel." Sarah replied, "That felt new." Days passed without visits. My mother sent short messages. My father sent none. Evan sent one last text. "They talk about you less now." I replied, "That's peace." Sarah said, "You don't sound angry." "I'm tired of knocking," I replied. She said, "They may never open." I stopped standing outside. I said, "I finished my coffee." I said, "I don't want to be chosen anymore." She replied, "Then choose yourself." I walked back to the rental. I locked the door from the inside. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. My phone rang at midnight. I answered, "Hello." My mother whispered, "It's me." I sat up and said, "What happened?" She hesitated. "Your father lost his job." I closed my eyes. "When?" "Today," she replied. "Why are you calling me?" I asked. She said, "I didn't know who else to call." I stayed quiet. She continued, "He came home early." "That happens," I said. "He was carrying a box," she replied. I swallowed. "I'm sorry." She said, "He's been silent." I asked, "Where's Evan?" She paused. "He moved." I frowned. "Moved where?" "He got an offer in another city," she said. "When?" "Last week," she replied. "He didn't tell you?" I asked. "He said he didn't want to worry us," she replied. I laughed once. "That sounds familiar." She whispered, "Please don't start." I leaned back and said, "Did he say goodbye?" "He said thank you," she replied. "For what?" "For everything," she said. I said, "So now you're alone?" She replied, "Yes." Silence stretched between us. She asked, "Can you come tomorrow?" I imagined the apartment. I asked why. "We need help," she said. "With what?" "Rent," she replied. I felt heat rise in my chest. I said, "I don't have much." "Anything helps," she replied. I asked, "What about savings?" "Those are gone," she said. I rubbed my face. "Gone how?" She said, "Life happened." I breathed slowly. "You sound scared." "I am," she replied. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say no. She whispered, "You're still my son." I replied, "You're asking like I'm a bank." She cried softly. "I don't know how to talk to you." Neither did I replied. She said, your father won't call. I know, I said. After the call ended, I stared at the ceiling. My chest felt heavy but calm. The next morning, Sarah asked, you look tired. I got a call, I said. She poured coffee and said, from them? Yes, I replied. She leaned on the counter. What do they want? Help, I said. She asked, how does that feel? Complicated, I replied. She said, you don't owe revenge. I don't want it, I said. She asked, do you want justice or peace? I looked at my cup. I said nothing. She continued, justice demands payment. And peace? I asked. Peace demands boundaries, she replied. My phone buzzed. It was my father. He texted, your mother worries. I showed Sarah. She said, that's not an apology. I typed, I hope you're okay. No reply came. Later, my mother called again. She said, he won't eat. I replied, I'm not food. She gasped. That's cruel. So it was forgetting me. I replied. She whispered, we're paying now. I said, karma doesn't shout. She asked, will you come? I answered, not today. She cried harder. I stayed firm. After the call, my hands trembled. Sarah said, you chose yourself. I feel guilty, I replied. She said, guilt means you care. I always cared, I said. That evening, Evan messaged me. I heard about your father. I replied, yes. I'm sorry, he wrote. I typed, you left easily. I had to, he replied. I stared at the screen. I typed, so did I. He didn't respond. At night, I lay awake. I remembered sending money. I remembered silence. Karma didn't come screaming. It came whispering names I knew. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I waited. I stood outside their apartment door and said to myself, this is temporary. I knocked once. My mother opened the door and said, you came. I said I would. I replied. My father stood behind her. He said, come in. The apartment felt smaller than before. My mother said, sit. I shook my head. I'll stand. She asked, are you angry? I answered no. My father frowned. Then what is that face? Distance, I replied. My mother said, we need to talk. That's why I'm here, I said. She sat down and said, we were hoping you'd move back. I replied, no. My father stiffened. You didn't let us finish. There's nothing to finish, I said. My mother said, we can help each other. You mean I help you? I replied. She looked hurt. We're family. That word keeps changing, I said. My father raised his voice. We're struggling. I know, I replied. He said, then why won't you? Because I finally can choose, I said. My mother asked, choose what? Myself, I replied. She said, you sound selfish. I sound alive, I replied. My father said, you used to be different. I used to disappear, I replied. Silence filled the room. My father sat down slowly. He said, we thought you wouldn't come back. I looked at him. Say that again. He repeated, we didn't think you'd return. My chest tightened. My mother whispered, we planned around that. That's why, I said. My father asked, why what? Why you replaced me? I replied. My mother cried. We didn't replace you. You fill my space, I said. My father said, we had to live. So did I replied. He rubbed his hands. We assumed you were gone. I was working, I said. My mother said, you didn't visit. I sent money, I replied. My father said, money isn't presents. Neither is forgetting, I replied. He looked away. My mother whispered, we were afraid. Of what? I asked. Depending on you, she replied. I nodded. So you depended on someone else. She said nothing. I took a breath. I'm not here to punish you. My father asked, then why come? To set limits, I replied. My mother looked up. Limits? Yes, I said. I continued. I won't move back. My father said, we need support. I can help sometimes, I replied. My mother asked how. I decide when, I said. My father frowned. That's not family. That's survival, I replied. My mother said, what about love? I don't feel it right now, I replied. She covered her mouth. My father said, you're cold. I'm calm, I replied. He stood up. We raised you. And I outgrew waiting, I replied. My mother asked, will you abandon us? I won't disappear, I replied. My father said, then prove it. I don't have to, I replied. Silence returned. My heart felt steady. My mother said softly, "We made mistakes." "I know," I replied. My father said, "So did you?" "Yes," I said. I stepped toward the door. My mother asked, "When will you come again?" "I'll call first," I replied. My father said, "That sounds distant." "It is," I replied. At the door, I turned and said, "Revenge isn't yelling." They watched me. I added, "It's choosing not to bleed anymore." I walked out without shaking. For the first time, the choice was mine. My mother called early and said, "Can we talk?" I replied, "About what?" "About us," she said. I met them at the park near their apartment. My father sat on the bench and said nothing. My mother stood and said, "I'm sorry." I asked, "For what?" "For choosing comfort," she replied. "For staying quiet," she added. My father looked at the ground. I said, "You can speak too." He didn't. My mother's voice shook. "I failed you." I nodded. "Yes." She cried. "I thought you were strong." "I was tired," I replied. My father finally said, "We didn't mean harm." "I know," I replied. My mother said, "We were scared of waiting." "So you moved on," I replied. She said, "We didn't think you'd return." "I heard that already," I replied. My father said, "It wasn't personal. It was permanent," I replied. My mother stepped closer. "Can you forgive us?" I breathed in slowly. I said, "I forgive you." She looked relieved. I added, "But forgiveness isn't closeness." Her smile faded. My father asked, "Then what is it?" "It's peace," I replied. My mother whispered, "Will you come home again?" "I won't move back," I replied. My father said, "We accept that." I nodded. My mother said, "I don't expect anything." "That's new," I replied. She wiped her face. "I know." I sat down and said, "I forgave you for me." My father looked up. "Not to fix you," I added. He said, "That hurts." "It should," I replied. My mother asked, "Are you angry?" "No," I replied. She said, "Then what are you?" "Free," I replied. We sat quietly. The silence didn't scare me. Later, my phone buzzed. It was Evan. He wrote, "Can we talk?" I replied, "You already are." He sent another message. "I always felt temporary." I stared at the words. I typed, "Explain." "I knew I was filling a gap," he wrote. They never said it, but I felt it. I replied, "You look confident." "That was fear," he wrote. I asked, "Did you enjoy it?" He answered, "I enjoyed being needed." I typed, "That makes sense." He sent, "I never wanted to erase you." I replied, "You didn't." He paused, then wrote, "I was always the substitute." My chest loosened. I replied, "I was always the memory." He wrote, "I'm sorry." I answered, "I know." He sent, "You deserve better." I replied, "So did you." He typed, "We were both used by fear." I answered, "Yes." After the messages stopped, I felt lighter. That evening, Sarah asked, "Did you get closure?" I stopped waiting, I replied. She said, "That's different." "It's better," I replied. She asked, "Do you miss them?" "I miss who I thought they were," I replied. She nodded. "That's honest." I said, "I don't need to be chosen." She replied, "You already chose yourself." Later, my mother texted, "Thank you for coming." I replied, "Take care." My father sent nothing. That felt right. I looked at my reflection and said, I wasn't abandoned. I said again, slower. I had been released. I wasn't the son they lost. I was the man I kept. I woke up to sunlight spilling across the kitchen table. Sarah smiled. "Coffee, please," I said. She poured it and asked, "You're quiet this morning." "I'm thinking," I replied. "About work?" she asked. "No," I said. "Then, life," I replied. She sat across from me. "You've come a long way." "I have," I said. She laughed softly. "And you survived it all." "I did," I said. I sipped my coffee and said, "I never thought I'd feel this calm." "Calm is good," she said. "I used to chase approval," I said. "You don't anymore," she replied. "I help my parents sometimes," I said. Sarah asked, "How's that?" "Necessary, distant," I replied. "Do they understand?" "They try," I said. I told her, "They call, I answer. I don't go unless needed." "That sounds healthy," she said. "I don't feel anger anymore," I said. "Nor guilt," she asked. "Some days," I admitted. "That's normal," she said. We walked to the park later. I said, "I never imagined peace could feel like this." "You earned it," she replied. I stopped near the old street. I want to see the house. Old memories? She asked. Closure, I said. The house looked smaller than I remembered. I said quietly, no one lives here now. Sarah nodded. I said, I don't feel anything. Nothing, she asked. Nothing, I repeated. I ran my hand along the gate. I said I survived. I grew. I chose me. That's victory, Sarah said. I laughed softly. I didn't replace anyone. No one replaced me either. Good, she said. I said, I helped my parents, but I didn't lose myself. That's important, she replied. I asked, do you ever think about Evan? Sometimes, I said. He understood eventually, she asked. Yes, I replied. I looked down the street. This town was my past, not my future. Sarah said, then leave it behind. I smiled. I already have. We walked away from the gate. I said, I wanted to be seen, and I finally am. By yourself? She asked. By me, I said. She took my hand. And by me, I know, I said. That evening, I sat on the balcony. I said, I'm not bitter. I'm not empty. I'm complete. Sarah leaned on my shoulder. That's the life you chose. I whispered, I choose every day now. She said softly, and that's justice. I looked at the sky. Quiet, steady, mine. Sarah said, perfect. I laughed. Years of struggle, all leading here. All worth it, she said. I said, I helped, but I didn't surrender. Sarah smiled. You protected yourself. I said, I forgave, not for them, but for me. And you were right, she said. I thought about my parents calling sometimes. I replied quietly, we're connected, but not close. She nodded. That's healthy distance. I said, I never had to be their version of son again. No, she said. I'm free, I whispered. I remember the streets, the old house, the empty bench. I said, this past is done. Sarah said, and the future is yours. I smiled. It feels like mine for the first time. We held hands and watched the sunset. I said, I didn't win by hurting anyone. I won by surviving. And choosing yourself, Sarah added. Yes, I said. I turned one last time toward the old house. I said quietly, goodbye. No anger, no regret, just peace. I whispered, I survived, I grew, I chose me. And that was enough.